I actually have been compiling questions, and I mean to get to these all the time, guys. So please don't think we forget about you. We've got a couple of questions here that came in, and I just want to go over these real quick because I think they're great. Okay, so send those questions. Go to theroundtableradio.com, click the contact section, send those questions over. Okay, so this one's from Mary from North Smithfield. I don't live there anymore, but that's my hometown. So cool. Thanks for tuning in, Mary. And she says, I put my home up for sale last November, and my house has been pending contract with a buyer now for 7 months. That's a long time, Mary. The buyer is having a hard time obtaining financing, and despite the fact that I have not signed an extension since this past April, the buyer's agent will not let me out of the agreement. I listed my home as for sale by owner. What do I do? Help. Well, Mary, that's a great question. Okay, first and foremost, the market is roughly between 5 and about 8% or so higher now than it was when you listed the property late last year. Okay, and by the way, that's almost a year ago. That's a long time ago. The great news is that when we get you out of this contract, because I'm 100% confident we can, okay, you're gonna net far more when closing. Okay, you're going to net a lot more when actually so much more when closing that if you hire a real estate agent, it's going to cover their commissions. Okay, so in Rhode Island, there is no time is of the essence language under the closing section on the purchase and sales agreement. Okay, so basically, and by the way, that's what most real estate agents use. I would bet anything that's what the agent had his client sign, and you signed. If you want, I can review that for you. But basically, if you took that to court and you fought the buyer on that, after 6 months, you'd win. So you're all set. You're good to go. A quote-unquote reasonable time for a buyer to procure financing, believe it or not, is 6 months. I know it seems like a long time, but these markets are not always as hot as they are right now. And 6 months is a quote-unquote reasonable time period with the court. So in short, contact that agent, okay? Tell him or her that you need to release that purchase and sales agreement, and you want out of that thing, okay? You want out of that agreement. Now, if that agent gives you a hard time, well, they're doing their job for their buyers because they're not working for you. They're working for the buyers. And actually, last show, we spoke about a buyer's agent and how powerful they are for you. And this is actually a pretty good example of that. You can actually watch that video on theroundtableradio.com under the video section, okay? But if for some reason that agent won't release their buyer out, you need to contact legal counsel. I suggest contacting Melissa Delana or Ted Tapuzis on our show, and you can easily find them under the expert contributor section on theroundtableradio.com. Okay, so I hope that helped. If you have any other further questions, let me know. But again, going back to the for sale by owner thing, we've also done segments on this as well. The average for sale by owner, you heard me say it before, and that's 15% less on average, without a realtor. So when I look at this, if I seen that contract, I could almost guarantee you that price would be a lot lower without a realtor. And the next question is from an undisclosed realtor, okay? And I appreciate realtors listening to the show, and we try to make the show as informative as possible, not only for the public, but for real estate agents. And we love when our peers weigh in. So thank you very much to this person. They asked me not to mention their name, but they're a phenomenal agent. And here's the question. So, Emilio, great show each week. I learned something new. Thank you. I'm a Massachusetts realtor and just obtained my license last year. Needless to say, I appreciate the advice forum you run. I have a buyer who is in a purchase and sales agreement on a property in Swansea, Mass. I'm selling their home in Rehoboth, but the purchase on their new home is dependent on the home in Rehoboth from selling. Now, the house in Rehoboth was under contract, and the contract fell through. What do I do? Okay, all right, that's a great question. So, guys, basically, her sellers were selling, and they had to sell that property in order to buy. But the way it works is, as long as your house is pending, as long as your house is pending, you can go into an agreement to purchase a home without a quote-unquote Hubbard clause. So Massachusetts may be a little bit different. So please, the realtor from Massachusetts with this question, or anybody from Mass with this question, feel free to ask a Mass realtor just to double check this. I have somebody I can refer to you that covers that area that's top notch. If you need them, let me know. But I believe that it's the same, from state to state. Basically, if your house is pending and you want to put an agreement on another house to purchase, you don't have to go in with what they call a Hubbard clause. Now, a Hubbard clause basically states that you have a home to sell, okay, and it's what you put down on an agreement when your home is active on the market and not pending. And it allows the sellers, if they find another buyer, it allows the sellers to still actively market their home. And if they find another buyer, it allows you as the original buyer to get 48 hours to put your home under contract or to come up with, the funds to purchase that home you want to buy. So I know it's very convoluted. It's not always easy. There's a lot of moving parts with this stuff. But to answer your question to the Massachusetts realtor, basically, you need to have language under the additional provision section of that purchase and sales agreement that just states subject to, 123, the successful closing of 123 Main Street in Rehoboth, Mass. Because that language protects your buyer if for some reason that contract falls apart, okay? So basically the seller can't use any type of legal recourse towards that buyer if that, if you can't get another buyer on that property and get the property pending. So I would suggest to speak also with your broker and also with a Massachusetts real estate attorney, okay? Because they're going to just make sure that, your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed. It's a little bit different from state to state, but, it's pretty much probably going to be kind of the same, all along the same lines. But question number 3 that we have is from Dennis from North Kingstown. Question, Emilio, I've decided to sell my home, which I believe is valued around $500,000. Is the fall a good time to sell in this price range? Well, basically, the myth is this, Dennis, and thank you for the question, by the way. It's a great question. We get that a lot. The myth is this, is that fall or winter is a bad time to sell, okay? So traditionally, fall is the second hottest market of the year, okay? You got spring, and then you have fall. I know summer is wicked hot, too, and but a lot of times, too, think about this. People in the summertime, in July, they're gone. They're on vacation. And, August, they're getting ready for back to school. So traditionally, spring and fall are the busiest markets. Now, fall's a great time, and even the winter is going to be a great time because we're in the hottest housing market we've had since 1986. Since then, we put in more contracts, more purchase and sales agreements that have closed this year than any other year since then, okay? And people are like, why? How's that happening? There's not a lot of houses on the market. Well, exactly. We're still down to, I believe it's 3,500 houses, half as much as there should be on the market. So I want you to think of it like this. It's a big supply and demand issue, okay? You've got not enough inventory on the market, and you have more buyers than ever out there, okay? And you got to know that the population is obviously growing in this country, so there's going to be more of a demand, and more people have access to financing because the rates are so super duper low. In the 80s, they were very, very high. So different times, I know, but the rates are so low that people can afford much more of a house. So to answer your question, Dennis, and anybody else that has this question, if you've got a home, $500,000, $600,000, $700,000, whatever it is, even if it's a $200,000 house, the pool of buyers that can afford that home, that neighborhood, that caliber today won't be able to, not all of them will be able to afford that, eventually when the rates go up. Now, we all thought the rates would be up by now, but they're not. Why? There's a million reasons why, and we just don't have that kind of time on the show today to talk about it, but we can definitely bring that up if that interests you later on a different show. So, keep those questions coming in, guys. I think they're absolutely great, and there's no such thing as there is a such thing as a bad question, but don't worry, we won't pick on you for that, I promise. So send those in to the roundtableradio.com and click the contact section.